There's the Labor leader, Anthony Albanese, there at the Press Club. This week, as Andrew Clennell mentioned, Labor will be looking to make some amendments to provide a greater safety net for those on the minimum wage. With me is the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, thanks very much for your time. Will you support Labor in those amendments?
No, we won't. JobKeeper is a remarkable program, Kieran. It's the single largest economic support measure that any Australian government has ever undertaken. And a key part of the success of JobKeeper has been these IR flexible arrangements. And around 80% of JobKeeper businesses have said they've been able to maintain their business through this crisis because of those IR flexibility. So we want them to continue.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you support this greater safety net? Because under this situation that you've got proposed to the Parliament at the moment, you could have a recovering business, a business doing better, but the employee receiving less than, say, a business that's been flattened, and yet the employee would still get the $600 JobKeeper subsidy.
So under the reforms, if you are continuing to be a JobKeeper business after the end of September, you'll maintain those IR flexible arrangements around duties, hours worked and location. If you're coming off JobKeeper, but your turnover is down between 10 and 30%, you'll be able to maintain those flexible arrangements, but you won't be able to reduce the hours worked below 60% as they were on the 1st of March. And it's critical to understand that these are still distressed businesses. So they can't keep all their employees fully employed because their doors are not necessarily fully open. And if we were to force those businesses to keep their staff working at 100% of hours, then ultimately that would cost jobs.
You could have some workers, though. Do you concede there could be some workers under that arrangement who would earn less with those reduced hours than if they were on JobKeeper?
But you're not comparing two of the same businesses. Ultimately, those businesses that those people are working for have seen their turnover fall between 10 and 30%, but they're no longer on JobKeeper. So they're still distressed, they're still coming back to work. Then there are the other set of businesses that maintain JobKeeper that are obviously more distressed and will continue to receive the full IR flexible arrangements.
So for the worker, it's better to be with the more distressed company.
But it's not about ensuring that the worker is getting exactly the same pay as that they were previously. It's about ensuring that they can maintain their job. And we have worked through these reforms with the unions and with the business groups, and they're an appropriate response.
It seems to make sense, though, the Labor amendment to the effect that you would provide the minimum $600 JobKeeper to everyone. Why not, given how distressed not just the businesses are, but the workers are too?
Well, we are maintaining JobKeeper for those businesses that have seen their turnover fall over the December quarter by more than 30% or by more than 50%, depending on the size of those businesses.
But not the recovering businesses.
But the recovering businesses are not receiving JobKeeper because they're recovering, but they're still distressed.
But shouldn't you put then, just to finish on this issue, why not put that safety net for those workers? Because if they're going to have their hours reduced, they're going to be earning less than JobKeeper reduced.
Ultimately, Labor's proposal could cost jobs because if you were to force an employer to pay someone even though there was not the work for them, then ultimately that could lead to more sackings.
The Treasury numbers suggest another 400,000 workers or thereabouts will lose their jobs by Christmas. Is this the time to be tapering JobKeeper at all?
Well, ultimately what we've done is extended JobKeeper by another 6 months. Originally it was legislated for 6 months and we're extending it, and at $101 billion, it's the single largest program that Australia has ever undertaken.
But why reduce it?
Because ultimately we are seeing businesses come back. Outside of Victoria, the recovery is seeing, and restrictions are being eased and businesses are coming back. Labor themselves have said that this payment should transition, recognising it's not going to be there forever. So ultimately they were complaining, Labor, that people were being paid too much. Now they're saying they're not paid enough. They said before they complained about the debt levels. Now they're saying we need to spend more. Before they said that we should transition. Now they're saying we shouldn't transition. They want to have a bet each way.
But aren't we still in the teeth of the economic crisis? We
Absolutely.
saw this the Herald Sun numbers today, up to $400 million a day, the stage 4 lockdown is costing Victoria. If we're in the teeth of the economic crisis, why wind back the supports?
Well, the reason for extending this program by another 6 months is because there is still a long way to go in coming out of COVID-19. What we announced recently was effectively an extra $30 billion, Kieran, of spending on JobKeeper, with changes around the employer turnover test as well as the employee eligibility test.